Hey, this is Seth Walker, and you're listening to Icon Fetch.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
All right, thanks for checking us out. Now, Austin singer Ruthie Foster defies classification. Her previous albums have featured covers from the likes of Johnny Cash, David Crosby, and Adele, as well as her own originals. For this new project, Joy Comes Back, her first release in 3 years, the approach is equally eclectic. The Four Tops, the Mississippi John Hurt, and Black Sabbath.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses.
She's also joined by several stellar guests, including guitarist Derek Trucks, bassist Willie Weeks, and drummer Joe Vitale. And to talk about all of it, we bring into the show Ruthie Foster. How are you, Ruthie?
Hey, I'm doing fabulous today. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. Now, this has been a while. You've not put out a new record in quite some time, roughly 3 years. But when I understand, it's kind of been a rough patch of your life, and you were kind of using music as kind of a catharsis, right?
Yeah, music has always been my way to just, it was my therapy, basically. So I went back into the studio and I started really slow, just kind of doing a lot more listening than anything. And a lot of that listening you'll see on this particular CD, and I did some writing too. I managed to get a tune and co-write on this new album.
Now, I noticed it seems that there's a little bit more of a soulful feel to this record than previous ones. Is that on purpose or it just kind of accidentally happened?
I think that was just really about digging deep, and that's where it came from. It came from where I was sitting at the time, and that's getting back to being around my folks, being in the country, doing a little fishing, and just having some real home time. And so that's what you're feeling, that's what you're hearing, is the way I've always wanted to sing. Not to say that my previous CDs don't have that, but I think this one I didn't really have to go. I just dug deep. I didn't have to think at all, and I took my time with it. As you know, it took me a few years to really get this one down, get this one ready.
What are you listening to? Is it a cover band in some college town bar where it's na-na-nas and air guitar?
Now, from what I understand, you got in the studio just kind of, just kind of as a release. Was there one particular song that you put down on tape and you went, okay, now I think we got something here?
It's funny. It would be the very last song that's in the sequence of this record. It's a song called "Forgiven."
You are forgiven. I open all my doors. You are forgiven.
And it was a song written and performed by Deb Talent of the Weepies. And I was introduced to the song through my producer of this record, Dan Barrett. And it was really that song that was the catalyst for going back into the studio. Dan's an old friend of mine and a neighbor. And I was just hanging out at his studio one day, and he asked me to listen to this song. And it just happened to be where I was. I was ending a relationship and going into a co-parenting situation. It was really rough, and this was one of those songs that kind of, it put it all into perspective and started the ball rolling with my getting back into music again and really recording and feeling good about being in the studio.
Now, from what I understand, if you look at previous albums, some of the albums, you have a lot of your own originals. In this particular album, like you said, you've got one co-writing credit and you've got one that's totally your own. Was this kind of a traumatic time in your life, like the muse just wasn't happening at the time kind of thing?
Yeah, it really wasn't. I really just wanted to just relax in that respect, because I didn't want to feel pushed to write, because I didn't want to not do my best when it came to putting material on a record. And I did have a lot of material, but I just didn't feel it was ready. And so I did hold back a lot of my own material. We listened to a lot of my songs that I had thought may have been ready, but there was no coalition. They really didn't work together. So these are songs that I picked because they said exactly where I was.
Come along, sweet daddy, come blowing your horn. If you come too late, street mama will be gone.
And being that the record took so long, I was in a lot of different places. You'll see on this record. At one month going into the other, because I was continuing to travel. I was still touring during this time, but just not as much.
Right. And, we mentioned at the top of the show how diverse the cover songs on this album are, and that kind of goes for your previous albums, too. I mean, do you have a background where you just have all these different influences that are coming in? I mean, is this a conscious thing to go, hey, I need to grab this one from left of center, or does it just kind of come organically like that?
It really is organically, and that's become more and more so the more I record. This is my 9th or 10th, I think, album. And I think it's just about relaxing and letting the songs come to you. And even as a songwriter, that to me is just really important. And recognizing a lot of unknown songwriters that are on this record was important to me. Grace Pettis, I picked 2 of her songs that are on this record.
Easy living never did me no favors. Smooth seas never made a good sailor.
And I really believe she's an extraordinary writer. I've toured with her dad, Pierce Pettis, for years, quite a few years back. So it was really great to see another generation of great songwriters come through. Yeah, I'm just really open to a lot of different types of music, and I did a lot of listening during this time. So I guess that's what this record is reflecting.
Well, you mentioned Grace Pettis and Working Woman.
Get your glass up for the working woman. When you gotta get it done, call the working woman.
What a great song. I mean, I love the line in there, do your job 10 times better and do it in heels. I mean, that's awesome. I love that.
You can do your job 10 times better and do it in heels.
And you mentioned you get some other guests on the record. Derek Trucks lends his great slide guitar to Joy Comes Back.
I wanna be ready. I wanna be ready. I wanna be ready when joy comes back to me.
I mean, you've played on stage with the Allman Brothers before, right?
I have, yeah, the Beacon Theater and a couple other places. Derek is a dear friend of mine. He and Susan Tedeschi. And I just gave him a text in the middle of the recording and thought, dude, I really would love for you to do this. If you can just throw something down, you mind if I just send this your way? And he texts right back and says, let me know what you need. So that's how this happened.
And, another guest, Willie Weeks, plays on Open Sky. I mean, that's got a real classic soul feel to it, and that's one that you actually did write.
Yeah, and believe it or not, that says a lot about the songs that I thought I was going to use for this record really lean more towards that, which is why I started to pull most of them, except that one, because I think that may be a totally different record, and I may have to call Willie for that.
Right. Nice.
But yeah, Willie came to mind because we thought, well, there's some great bass players around here. Larry Fulcher, who is my bass player, he's on an album, but Willie came to mind too, and we just, we weren't really sure we'd get him, but it turns out he wanted to hear the song, and he heard it, and he thought it was awesome, and he said yes to it, and we were so glad that he did.
Yeah.
So we've got Willie on here too.
That's great, yeah. And you've got Joe Vitale. This is drummer that, played with Joe Walsh, I believe Crosby, Stills, and Nash. He's been around a long time. How'd you get hooked up with Joe?
Yeah, Joe is a friend of Dan's, my producer, and so he's in town, Austin, and Dan just happened to grab him. I met Joe working on another project with actually the other Joe Vitale, who lives in the area, the writer, Joe Vitale. So yeah, Joe decided to stick around after he had just finished a project, a separate project, and helped us out with a couple of tracks on this record. So I was really pleased by that.
Yeah, and you know, the title of the CD, Joy Comes Back, I mean, Joy Comes Back to me, it's like you've gone through this tumultuous time in your life. I mean, it's amazing because you didn't write that song, but it certainly seems very appropriate for all the stuff you've kind of been through in the last few years.
Right. And Joy Comes Back, that comes through Sean Stapleton. And Sean invited me to add a few verses to it if I felt like it, and I did. So that one's more of a co-write. The last verse, I think I added. But that was another one of those songs I heard and thought, okay, well, this album's got to happen. We have to start with that one, too. And that says it all about where I'm at and really where I was. You know, I was in a place where I was just, you know, it may not have been ideal when it comes to where I was personally in my personal life, but I knew that good things were on the way. You know, I held fast to good friends and good food and a lot of good music, and that song just says it all, and it's still saying it all right now.
And music has healing powers for sure. That is for sure. So
yeah, music has always healed for me.
Now, I noticed of some of the cover songs you've got on more notable ones, you do a 4-top song, Loving You Is Sweeter Than Ever.
'Cause loving you has made my life sweeter than ever.
How did you decide on that one? Was that kind of an obvious choice, or where did the origin of that one come from?
You know, we needed some sweetener. We had a lot of heavy-hitting songs, and we had some gospel in here, and I was really looking for some way to sweeten up this record a little bit, and that song came to mind. I've always been a big fan of Four Tops, and this is I think Stevie Wonder's a co-writer on this song. Nice. So it's one of those songs that's been floating around. A lot of folks have recorded it. I know Susan Tedeschi recorded it as well somewhere. She may have done it live. That was recorded, but it's a great tune. One of those great sing-alongs. I'm looking forward to singing this one live and just having everyone else jump in. So that was the idea I had with picking that one for this record.
Now, the one that stands out that I'm sure you're getting a lot of publicity on is the fact that you do a Black Sabbath song, War Pigs.
Now when darkness world stops turning, ashes where the body's burning.
And you know, I had it on. I'm listening to it. You know, I purposely don't look at the track listing. I put it on, and I was doing stuff in the background, and I'm like, what? You know, you know the words, and you're like, huh? Where on earth did the idea for a Black Sabbath cover come from? A Ruthie Foster kind of thing.
Well, you know, I have been sitting on this idea for a long time. I'm a huge Son House fan, and when it comes to my blues record collection. But a lot of folks don't know that I love my rock, too. And, my college years were all about, my friends bringing their record collection to my house. And that's how I ended up listening to a lot of Black Sabbath. So that was one of those, War Pigs is one of those staple songs that everybody knows, especially as a guitar player.
Right.
And I thought, well, what if you take these two genres that have nothing to do with each other for the most part and see what happens? And War Pigs, for me, that intro, the way Ozzy starts it off.
Generals gathered in their masses.
That, to me, was pure Son House. It's all power. There's power in the lyrics, and there's power in the delivery. And I thought, well, why not just, try it on Dobro and see what happens? I think it really works. We've got Simon on harmonica, just to give it that bluesy feel, and we slowed it down a little bit. And I'm doing the best I can on my resonator with just bringing that Sun House foot stomp to it. And quite frankly, I think the lyrics say a lot about what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, indeed. And, I mean, who would have think Sun House meets Black Sabbath? That's maybe you're creating a new genre. You don't even know, right?
Yeah.
But let's go back to the beginning for you. I understand you grew up kind of with a whole family full of gospel singers, right?
I did.
So,
yeah, everybody sang.
So how, as a young person, do you find your own voice amongst all these other voices? Was that a struggle at first, or did you find it easy?
It was not easy at all. In fact, I was a big stutterer. I stuttered a lot and stumbled on my words a lot as a kid. And it was music that brought a lot of that, it kind of smoothed that out a little bit. That and having a wonderful grandmother that worked with me on speaking in public and church in particular. Yeah, a lot of great singers, and it was really quite intimidating to grow up around that many great singers. I started out I played piano. That was my instrument. I never did sing that much until I got well into my teens, my late teens. I started singing more, but it didn't come easy at all. No, but over the years, I studied music, and I had a great voice teacher. I've had a lot of great folks that tell me that I could do this as a young person, as a young adult coming up. So it's just really about having the confidence and having something to say. You live long enough, yeah, you got something to say.
You have something to say, yeah, absolutely. Now, one of the interesting twists and turns of your life is that I understand, like, you went to music school, and then you gave up music for a while and joined the Navy. Now, what was the inspiration behind that?
I don't know, really. I think I just got to the point where I was curious if I could even hold a conversation that didn't involve talking about music. I can't say that I was burnt out, but in a way I may have been, because music school is very intense, and you tend to take on a lot of hours, and I did. And I had been in music for so long, as a young person, being in church and a church musician. So I think I just wanted to try something else to see if I could work with my hands. So I worked on helicopters.
Wow,
In
nice.
the Navy. Yeah, and it was fun for me. I had a whole new, different type of, group of friends, and friends of all cultural backgrounds. That was great. I got to travel. I didn't have to worry about what I was going to wear from day to day, and that's huge for me.
Nice.
And my mama knew where I was at all times.
Yep.
So
Yep.
It was one of those. It was an easy decision for me. And I really did I made friends that are friends for life. And I'm still in touch with a lot of my buddies from the Navy after leaving music school, because I went right after I graduated. I went in to the military. So yeah, I enjoyed my time away from music. I took a year. It was only 1 year, and then I realized, okay, well, this was fun. So I joined the Navy band after 1 year, after working around helicopters.
Okay, all right.
San Diego.
Okay, all right. Nice. So then you got a chance to do some touring in the band kind of thing, huh?
Yeah, that's where I learned how to travel. I learned how to travel in the music world and how to adapt, and a lot about discipline and really service. I learned a lot about just service to your community. So it was really, really good for me. A well-rounded education.
Yeah, and it gives you a different perspective on things than just doing music their whole life kind of thing, too. So
very true. Yeah.
So, all right, I'm going to ask you one more question. After you get out of the Navy, I read about this. I found this interesting that you kind of you've signed a deal with Atlantic Records, and I think we're talking like maybe early 90s or something, and yet nothing ever kind of came of that. And where most people, I think, would jump at the chance, and they would be like, hey, let me sign on the dotted line, whatever you want me to do, let me do it. And from what I understand, it was kind of a difference of opinion about maybe where Atlantic Records wanted you to go and your sort of vision for yourself, and then you just kind of walked away. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty much right. I did honor my contract. I wrote a lot of songs. That was part of my contract, but it was clear that it was more of a development deal than anything. I had a great lawyer, which I'd recommend for anybody if you have a major label chasing you. And he recommended you use what you can of it, of a good situation, which was an Atlantic label all over my portfolio, and it got me into a lot of great places to play in New York. And I can't say that was a bad thing.
Sure.
And I got a chance to do a lot of writing with the writers who otherwise probably would have ignored my name, but they saw the Atlantic label, the Atlantic emblem next to my name. So I used what I could of that opportunity, and then I wrote out my contract and finished what it was that was asked of me, and I moved back to Texas. I moved back home to take care of my mother, and I put out my own record later on.
Kind of on your own terms, though, for sure.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And
definitely on my own terms.
And here it is.
Since.
Yeah, and here it is, just like you're doing it. Album number 9 or 10 or wherever we lost track, or you're doing it again, kind of thing. So, so tell me, you're doing some live dates for the new record. Is it just you as a solo performer? Are you taking a band along? What are you doing?
It's kind of a mix. I'm doing a lot of solo work at the beginning of this year, just because I really needed to get out and remember how to perform by myself. I really wanted to do that. I think it's really good for an artist to do that. But I have my trio with me for a few shows coming up, as well as a quartet for even fewer. But that's always nice too. It's just kind of whatever the situation calls for.
Nice. Okay, and people can find out tour dates and stay up on top of all that. RuthieFoster.com is the website, right?
That is correct.
And can they even order the CD from there? Is that...
They can. You can
nice.
order the CD from there, or you can, better yet, just come to one of my shows and you can get as many as you like.
You can get as many as you like, and I bet, you might even get it autographed kind of thing or something, too.
That's right.
See, that's even better. So, excellent. All right. Well, Ruthie, it's been great talking to you. Brand new CD is called Joy Comes Back from Ruthie Foster, and we wish you luck on it, all right?
Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head on over to iconfetch.com. There you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who's Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send us what you've got to Tony Peters, Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio. Zip code 45429, or email Tony, host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.